Fuck Rob. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not gonna have the extravagant, introduction like my cousin, but yeah. My name Robert. Robert. Eagle's my cousin. Yeah, we do a little intro,
Yeah, like what do you do? What do you do? Where you from?
So,
where'd you grow up?
So from as you know, Ghost Town, Irvington, New Jersey. But right now, I currently reside in Edison. I currently, as Hugo knows, I start my position as engineer for this Tuesday. So yeah.
Congrats, son. I got a new position. I'm also an engineer, so gotta show respect.
Engineer. Congrats again for that. Get your flowers for that, bro.
Thank you.
And that's a good name, yo. Congrats, son. That's a really good name to get an engineering job from, man.
Yeah. I'm sorry?
What's like Shield from Agents of
Is it Shield? Avengers. He works for the Avengers. Yeah,
I work for the Avengers. Yeah, you feel me? Like got the cape. Nah, but yeah, but more than anything though, even though I'm an engineer, I'm also an entrepreneur. So I have a lot of side businesses as well. I can't even say side businesses. To be honest, like I try to tell people, the engineering thing is actually my side thing. So yeah, exactly. So I'm trying to build this I try to teach people about building your own, creating your own jobs, building your own wealth, generational wealth. So the way to do that is to build businesses. So like for me, all my engineering money goes into investing into my businesses, whether it's, certain things I can't say right now because, I keep it to the best. But so that's more of kind of what I'm doing now. But little thing. Yeah, all right, Mark, you can take it away.
I'm gonna do the same thing. Not too long of an intro. So my name is Martin. I'm on IG as Ebo King. I'm from Plainfield, New Jersey. So, shout out Plainfield. So I work in like pharmacy research right now. So I don't know if I'm putting my company out there just because when I get into certain topics, I like to keep that separate from.
Just your title.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because I go deep into certain topics. So I'm like, let me keep that separate. But like, yo, hold up, Mario, you over here talking like that? Mm-hmm. So, but just like Rob said, I believe in, I got some side businesses that I'm working on as well, and I just also believe in building, income outside of your job as well. So definitely have, I'm invested in like crypto and stocks and all that. I also have a podcast as well, Black House Radio. So I'm one half of the team, got my co-host, and so y'all can follow us on Black House Radio as well.
Okay.
So basically, what I work with, in my job, we work with basically arthritic drugs, research on that, arthritic drugs, gastrointestinal drugs, and the such. So, just a little bit of my background on that. And I'm also Afrocentric enthusiast. So that's what I like to say. People ask me. So, just a little bit, just a little bit of myself. So I'm gonna stop there. Get into the topics.
All right. Is that in your podcast? What was it, Black House?
Yeah, Black House, the Black House Radio.
Black House Radio. Are you guys streaming on all platforms? Apple Podcasts, Spotify?
Yeah, so right now we're on IG right now, so we just do like IG live shows, but we will be streaming on all platforms coming soon. So we have a YouTube as well, the Black House Radio. So we'll be posting on there soon. So
when you say Afrocentric, you mean like Dr. Umar?
Yeah.
Yes.
RZA, RZA Islam, yeah. He said like Dr.
Brothers, my brothers, my black brothers.
Oh man, it's gonna be a good one. Yeah, but also I just want to say too, Rob, he let me know about this. He brought me on, so like that's really my guy, like known for a long time. Like that's really my, that's like close thing that I have to a brother. So got all sisters, but that's like the close thing to I have with a brother. So yeah, man, it's gonna be so that's it. Yeah.
Yo, when I saw your social media stuff, I told Hugo you look like he took the super soldier syndrome from Marvel.
The Captain America serum.
The Captain America serum, and it says like you look like the Terminator version of fucking Hugo, man. You fucking brolic, son.
Strong.
You definitely don't miss a day at the gym. That's for sure.
Don't miss a day, 2 days, 4 days, 5 days.
Yeah, health is wealth, yeah. You know, health is wealth. You gotta stay fit.
Soldier serum. That's funny.
Yeah, I know, right?
He do look like he took his. Yeah, he do like he took the serum. He do look like that.
Listen,
you about to back down?
Yeah. Listen, he just played a grueling game. Giants just played the Saints. He just, he had 5 tackles. 3 for loss.
He said he played a great game.
We got that done. Feel me?
Yo, so tee us up. What's on the agenda?
I will tee it up. I mean, like I said, our final member, Ed Boy, another Penn State alum, he'll join us shortly at some point. He'll hop on there. His background's in finance. Give his quick background before he hops on. So we're gonna tee this one up. We'll keep this one. Really, really straightforward. Let's just jump into the vaccine mandates. I know in New York, basically, and as I said that, Ed Boy jumps right on. As I said that, it's like he heard me. We'll jump into the vaccine mandates.
Vaccine mandate, like Quail Man, son.
Like Quail Man. Yeah. Eddie, are you there? Eddie, are you there? He's probably setting up. He's probably setting up. But let's jump. We'll jump into the vaccine mandate. So, how do you guys feel about New York? I know they're in the process of mandating. They've already mandated for public places and public gatherings, concerts, venues, restaurants, so forth. They're in the process of mandating it for government workers, so teachers, healthcare workers, teachers, construction, so forth and so on. They're going to be mandated to take it pretty soon, if not already. I know California is in the process of doing the same as well. Pretty much depending on what state you are in throughout the country, it might become a reality on the federal level at some point. Who knows? But we just want to get your input before we jump in. As the regulars, we wanted to open the floor to our guests. What are your takes on the vaccine being mandated throughout the country?
Yeah, well, for me, I'm not for that, like the whole mandating thing. I'm not really good for any type of mandates, to be honest. I feel once you start taking away the liberties of people, it doesn't bode well. Not like in terms of just society. And you're starting to see that now with like, not even like the whole black and white thing. I'm leave that for later. It's more so like you're starting to see white people now going against other white people. Now it's a non-backs against backs thing. And it's become very political now. And I think we're losing track of like what the real path towards a solution is, where we're supposed to go for. So I think, and it all starts from the stem of like how this all started and all that with like, COVID and like, origins of that. And then like, what they said was supposed to happen with the vaccine and what didn't happen and how they continue to change the goalposts continuously. So like, I've been keeping track of all that. So when they started mandating things, I was just like, all right, yeah, this is not going to go well. And we're starting to see that now. So I think, like just keep it short right now so everyone can have a voice. I'm not really for it. It's just not it. Yeah, it's not it.
Like along the lines of what he's saying. So yeah, I'm definitely not for the vaccine mandate. Now, how I look at it is like you mentioned, right? You said can New York and California, and I'm definitely not for it because I realize too a lot of times, with our government, you see they're starting in New York and California, so that kind of sets the trends for other states sometimes. So you see they're trying to start in those states, because those are, I guess, very powerful, states. So they're trying to start. It's kind of like a test run. They're trying to mandate it there, and then that will kind of set the blueprint for how other states will, be mandated. Although there is pushback from other states, of course, some of the southern states are like, nah, they're not going for that. With the mandate, I just feel like it's just a lot of conflicting things. Because I know before the election, I remember President Biden, he was mentioning that he doesn't think the federal government has power to mandate vaccination or even mask mandates. And obviously, the mask mandate, you see that's been already mandated in a lot of different places. So now they're doing it with the vaccine. And in New York, like you said, you can't go to gyms, restaurants. Now I saw something with the healthcare workers. Now they're trying to push it to the healthcare workers, and they're actually pushing back and I saw something on Thursday where a judge granted him an injunction. So they kind of like put a stop to that for now, in mandating vaccination for healthcare workers, because there were a couple nurses that were, threatening lawsuits. So they put an injunction on that for now. Although I feel like they're going to try to get that, get over that and force them to all get vaccinated. I just, the mandate is just not, because just the conflicting reports. I remember my thing is like with this COVID-19, there's been a lot of unprecedented things happening with this COVID-19, and with them pushing this vaccine. We've already talked. I know people have already kind of glossed over the fact that, usually vaccines take a while to, produce, test, and we've all kind of just glossed over that and not really cared about that. They've produced this vaccine in record time, and people will say, oh, well, the technology has gotten better. But even with that, they said it still has been too fast. I remember before the election, they were saying, President, like, I'm not taking any vaccine that Trump is giving out. I remember people saying that. And then a couple months later, all of a sudden production on vaccines were ready to go. And people taking vaccines from all different types of companies, Pfizer, Moderna. So it just, and I'm not going to get too deep into that yet. I want to just stay on, because you mentioned the mandate. So it's just interesting to me with this mandate, why they're pushing it so fast, like mandating everybody get vaccinations, mandated the whole country, it just seems a little fishy to me, and probably get into that a little later why. But yeah, I'm definitely not for the vaccine. There's too many, vaccine mandate. There's too many conflicting reports, and they haven't really been straightforward, especially with CDC and Fauci. It's been all different types of reports, whether you should take it or not, who can get affected. If you take the vaccine, you won't get hospitalized, or you will, but it won't be as severe. Or, vaccinated people are spreading the variant, or unvaccinated people. So there's a lot of conflicting reports. So that's why I'm not really for the mandate pushing it. And just for me to finish off, and obviously you can't sue the companies if something happens to you. So that was kind of weird. They rushed that into act. A lot of people didn't see that, where they put into law. I don't know if it's called the PrEP Act. Basically,
PrEP Act.
You couldn't sue the company if something happened. So if it's a 90% success rate, why can't you sue the company if something happens to you? That's a little fishy to me. Like, because
on top of the 1986 vaccine liability, so there's two.
Yeah. Thank you for that. See, so my thing is, and when I think about, like I told y'all earlier, I'm an Afrocentric enthusiast. So like when it's time to sue people, I feel like, some of these effects, when it starts affecting people, that might affect our population more. And if we can't sue them and we can't hold them accountable, that's going to be a problem. So that's just how I feel about that. So that's why I'm not for the vaccine mandate.
Yeah.
You want to start first? I don't know.
No, you guys jump in. I'll jump in when I need to, like Batman. I'll swoop in.
Nah, I mean, I'm clearly on the side that, like, here's kind of like the thing, right? I feel like it's not. I guess we're kind of like at a crossroad, right? Where it's just like there's So I'm actually gonna set some assumptions, right? I'm gonna say that I believe COVID is real. Just to set that straight. And I do believe that vaccines in general are effective, right? I'm going to say vaccines in general because, I feel like this is kind of like, I think it'll be emphasized a little bit later. So I think this whole confusion, or like this whole crap, or this whole thing that's happening with like people being anti-vaxxing and pro-vaxxing, this whole thing it's really all happening because of politics.
Agreed.
I don't really
Agreed.
like. I think all of this, every single problem stems from the fact that this is being like politicized. So when I think about the vaccine, y'all brought up the point about it was made too fast, right? I guess too fast. Although I guess the technology has been like, according to my Google research, according to my Google research degree, right? Like just what I searched, it was like that it's been around, right? The technology has been in development for a few decades. And with the intention specifically of being able to develop a mechanism of developing like something that can be like a vaccine for multiple things, right? In a sense. So mind you, I am a little more biased towards science, right? So I'm kind of leaning super hard towards that end. And then there's the other end that I kind of want this all to end, and I kind of feel like, at least on my end, that the vaccine is pretty much how it's going to end. I guess enough people being vaccinated and things like that. And yeah, we're at this point where I think it's just like things are getting, right, we have more than enough vaccine. So the problem is not that the quote unquote cure is not out there, is that just people don't want to take it. And the thing is that, like, right, the way there's a few things I looked up a while back that it's just like what you got to do to reach like herd immunity, or like, herd immunity, right? Because we're herd. And the thing is that, like, science is not necessarily like fact. It's like a study of patterns. So you're really looking to like try to understand like patterns that you've seen before in order to come out with like, with to try to understand how things might end up in the end. And I feel like this is kind of like where a lot of things break down, where it's just like a fundamental, and it's good to be skeptical. I don't want to like, knock on that. I think it's 100% okay to be skeptical. And I think, being Black, 100%, you got to be way more skeptical about like everything, right? But like, I feel like this is a fundamental misunderstanding about like how science and like viruses work and just things like that. Like, we've had pandemics in the past, like, and it's funny because like the pandemic that I think of not most recently, because I think we had one under Obama or Bush, but it was a smaller one. But like the Spanish flu, where like when you look at like the headlines, it's exactly the same thing. So I guess just to wrap things up, like I think we're at that point where we kind of have to mandate it. And it's like what's happening right now is that like businesses are mandating that, right? And like I always think about like when people say like, oh, I don't want to take the vaccine or this and that. I get where some of like the hesitation comes from. I get where it's like, you don't want to take the freedoms, but I think we're unintentionally pivoting to other things that are related to that, but are not exactly the situation right now. So like in the situation right now, I kind of think about it like, at the end of the day, my man, we're second-class citizens. I try to think of like the second goal and, the end goal behind this vaccine thing. And it's just like, at the end of the day, people are too chaotic. And I feel like everyone's goal is really just to get us back into work, and that's kind of how I feel like, the vaccine is for. And I feel like we're just at that point where it's just like, we need people to get back into work, but we're going to keep on with this problem because we can't ever reach herd immunity. And we don't actually know what herd immunity is. We're only going to guess what herd immunity is until we get to that point, and then it's proven. But the thing is, I feel like we're never going to get to that herd immunity point because there's just enough a large percentage of people that aren't willing to take it. So like right now it's at that point where it's just like it's falling on like, companies to do this. And not for nothing, the companies that are, that are doing, that are mandating this for their workers to continue, of course they're left leaning, they're pro vaccines, so it's like I feel like this is inevitable. And at the end of the day, even if people resist now, like it's going to be mandatory for schools. So like everybody's going to have to get it eventually. And like in 4 years, these anti-vaxxers are going to be, in a sense, a myth, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like it'll be forgotten in the same way, like good parts of our history are like thrown away. I feel like it's going to happen to this. But like, I just want to pose the question, like, what do you think is the end goal of this pandemic? If we all want to get back to regular life, right? Mm-hmm. Why is the vaccine not the way to go? Like we've extended our life tremendously because of vaccines. We take tons of vaccines all the time just to go to school. Like, and I get the hesitation, but like mad people have already taken this, right? Like, I hope there's at least I don't think there's any global conspiracy because I don't think people are that organized. Like, to be honest, like
depends who you talk to. Depends who you talk to.
People, I don't think people are that. No, I don't think people are that organized. So I know I've been going on a TED talk. So I'll just wrap it up right now. I don't know. I'll just let you respond. Like, what do you think is the end goal? Like, if like we're in this pandemic, what was the point of the pandemic? And like, yeah, if what's the point of the pandemic? If like, and then I guess what's the end goal?
So, and that's where you have to know the origins, right? Like. It's all about money. That's kind of the bottom line. It's always about money and who controls the money. So when you said like there's no global conspiracy and stuff, Like, it's more so who controls the money, who's trying to make more money. And when you find out about the origins, like a lot of people, like me and Mark, we was talking about how COVID was man-made. Everybody's saying, oh, we was conspiracy theorists, this, that, and the third. And now Fauci comes out and said, yeah, there's a possibility that it might, like, no, we knew. The letters are out there, documents are now out there, names are out there. We have the letters if we could show y'all. Like, so when you go and find the origins, then I ask myself, okay, if this is man-made, why? Why was it man-made? You know, it's like, why? And then not only that, so, and my thing was, so when they first did the whole shutdown thing, right? I was like, you really care about the people? Like, you would really shut it down. Like, don't do no half, shut down for like a couple months. Like, shut it down and really find a real valid, like, solution. Now, the vaccine thing, that was when the vaccine thing started coming out, and this is where, and I like how you said patterns, it sticks to that. This is where knowing the history. So Fauci, I don't know if y'all should know, like in 1990s, Fauci was pushing the HIV vaccine. Yeah, and there was a lot of we don't hear about it right now, but he was pushing that. He was pushing that heavy, and then everybody, this was like supposed to be the new solution, this and the third. And like you said, like history. Sometimes people forget. And I didn't forget this bad history though, because a lot of people that was getting some side effects, crazy side effects, adverse effects, this and the third, where like people were getting like stuck on wheelchairs, this and the third, and then there was data that the CDC had regarding with the HIV vaccine. And Fauci, him lying, he's always lying. He was saying, it's proven, this and third, like it's good. And then they went to the, I think they went to the head director at the time that was in charge of the research project. And he blatantly said, he was like, yeah, the drug had bad efficacy, data, like statistics and stuff, and like, just wasn't working as they should. So then he asked, like, why did Fauci come out and say, this and third about it, how it was working? And then he got caught. He started slipping up on the video and stuff. That, like, we already knew he was lying, this and third. But then it's the same pattern, like between like that HIV vaccine to now. They're trying to push it. They're trying to mandate it. It's the cure all. And I don't understand the premise of like a vaccine being a cure. We go to school for how many years, right? To build our minds, right? Like, you don't just read one book and become smart. You telling me I'm big, muscular, this and there. I didn't just pick up one weight and just got big. It takes time.
You took a serum, bro.
Definitely took a serum.
Unless you take a serum, that's a little cheat code. But that's the thing. So we spend time to build our minds. We spend time to build our bodies. To get through the COVID thing, it's about the solution. You have to build your health. And I think we're losing track of that. Eating right. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I want to ask, so we were talking about COVID, but why do you think that HIV example is relevant? Because I think before you mentioned it a little bit, but I think it's not I think it's kind of irrelevant. Like I can see it being like you want to judge the person's character, the decision making thing, but I think they're slightly different, right? Because like AIDS, right? AIDS is something that like I'm not gonna say much about the history because I don't know it off the top of my head. That's but right. I feel like the coronavirus, like this is a little bit different because it is way more infectious, and it's about, to me, it's about really getting really back like their second and third class citizens back into work. That's why I think this is a little bit more important, because this doesn't just affect one person or whoever they want to target in their campaign ads that spreads AIDS or whatever. This is a little bit different. This is like global, and this doesn't like the thing is that if we all don't cooperate, we can't get it under control, and that affects everybody's bottom line, right? Like, because then nobody wants to work, and we're seeing the situation right now, supposedly, where nobody wants to work and shit like that. I don't know if it's true or not. I haven't looked at the numbers, but you know what? I just feel like that example may not be like I feel like they're different situations. You know what I mean? Where I feel like AIDS is not like a pandemic. You can't sneeze on somebody and give them AIDS, like, and stuff like that. It doesn't spread as fast, but like, the pandemic is different. Like,
yeah, but this is where we have to remember our history, right? Because the whole HIV, like the dilemma back then, it was like that. It was like, remember Magic? He came out, he was like, I had HIV/AIDS. Nobody wanted to play with him. Everybody thought that it was worse. Like HIV whole that was way worse than COVID. Like the whole in terms of the hysteria and stuff behind it. I mean, you guys are more, older enough to remember that. But when I do my research and stuff, it was bad. It was bad. So that's why they was pushing the HIV vaccine. That's why I brought the in terms of the parallels between the two. Like it's really, and I get what you're talking about in terms of it being more infectious, but no, like they thought HIV was like, yo, if he touched me, I'm gonna get it. Sneeze, all that. No one had a clue. Yeah, no one had. And you go with Martin too. Yeah.
But here's the thing: no one had a clue, right? But over time, their understanding evolved, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the way we respond to those things changed. In the same way with like COVID, we didn't know shit about it, and as time went on, we responded to that. And I just wanted to point that out because I feel like that's one of those things where it's just like, why are they so inconsistent? And I feel like it's a combination of like, hey, this is new, right? We need things to change, but I feel like people are trying to make it look bad again because they're just politicizing this. Like it's not about like it's not about like the common folk, right? Because Trump got the vaccine, right? So it's not about that. It's just about politics and also I do want to say that I do want to differentiate power and money because I think power is a little bit power encompasses a few different things, right? Where like money is an aspect of power, right? But power can be the way you manipulate people. So I only want to put that because I know you guys said before, the money, they want to make money and stuff like that. But I think it's a little bit more than money, right? People want power, and people want. I guess I would just define it as power, as opposed to like money. Like a lot the end goal for a lot of people is not necessarily money, but power, or money because it gives them power.
Yeah, money and power is synonymous. that's we know that through history. Yeah, like money, resources, any like the whole transatlantic slave trade was all about power, money, resources. That's why they enslaved us. It wasn't, oh, let's just do it, just cause. It's always about money. Like when you find out where the money is coming from, where it's going, you're gonna find your source everywhere. Even us, like in the dilemma that Black people are facing now, like how to get out of it. It's not just going to the polls and voting. It's about building economic power. Like you tell Black people that they don't have a clue. They're thinking, oh, I'm just gonna go,
vote or die.
You gotta vote or die. Like go vote. And this is what it's unfortunate because it's like, people are talking about Trump, this and that, being being radical, being a bigot, this and third. And I told people, I don't want to detract. Actually, yeah, Mark, you go ahead. I don't want to.
Before we get to that, I want to stay on what he said earlier because you were talking about. He said he doesn't think people can be that organized or the global conspiracy or like what's the end goal, right, for COVID. So I just want to like go back a little bit, right, because Rob mentioned it too. Like when we were saying, like when I started like Black House Radio like a year and a half ago, we were saying like this could be man-made, and people were saying, they call the Hotep kind of thing. Oh, you a Hotep conspiracy theorist? It's man-made. So Fauci comes out months later like, oh, there is possibility this was man-made. Now the thing that people wasn't talking about was that Wuhan lab in China, right? Some of those labs were U.S. funded, so America was funding some of those labs, and where those leaks were coming from, some of those were American-sponsored labs. So a lot of people that wasn't really publicized in the mainstream media because they started talking about, oh, it might have been a leak, quote unquote leak, and that's how COVID started. So a lot of time, when they were talking about, oh, we're blaming it on China, remember Trump was calling it, what do you call it? The China flu or whatever he's calling it. Oh yeah, go ahead.
So even if it's a leak or not, we need to so you guys think it's an intentional leak?
Well, yeah, he's saying, well, the thing is, I believe intentionally, but my thing was they were saying that there was no way possible that it could have been man-made, right? Or it could have been created in the lab. Fauci admitted later that it's possible that it could be created later, but they were first saying that that's impossible. That's misinformation. That's people just coming up with rumors and theories. So that's my first thing. My second thing was, see, when we talk about COVID, like you guys saying the vaccine, because you were saying like the vaccine is a way for us to return back to normal, right? To return back to normal life closer. So my thing was a lot of times too, when we see a lot of these pandemics, and it's not always every election, but if you notice around election time, there's always something big that's going on. It could be swine flu, whatever, SARS, Ebola. All of a sudden we had Ebola. We had a little Ebola scare for a while where they thought everybody's going to die and sick, and then that went away quick. I don't even know the last time I heard about Ebola. So my thing is during this COVID-19, right? It started, let's say, December 2019. So during the elections, we saw a lot of people out in the streets, right? Protesting, unmasked, protesting, people, all different groups, political parties, like Republican, Democrats, and, people was unmasked, they had masks. So I was, in my head, I'm like, is COVID pick and choose when it wants to, be infectious or not? Like, is it, we used to having people having games, people having sporting events. So that's my thing. And then people saying like, all right, so now they're like, all right. And I remember they were like, yo, if you get vaccinated, you won't get COVID. That's what they're saying first. Obviously, we know now. We know now, but it was like, if you get the vaccine, you will not get COVID and you won't be hospitalized. That's what they were saying. Biden, I remember Biden, come on, they were telling people like, we researched.
CDC director, CDC director too.
Yep. You get the vaccine. So like you said, obviously you learn and you make changes. Because I think you were saying earlier, like people obviously learn that, with the HIV vaccine or whatever, like with HIV, like they learned certain things that they said wasn't true. But I was like, it's only took a couple months and they switched. Like there's only, with the AIDS and stuff that, years of research, years of, that's when we learn certain, unlearn certain stereotypes that we had about it. But this was like in a couple of months. So my thing was, and now if you notice too, they started telling the vaccinated people, all right, you still have to keep your mask on. Because they were saying if you get vaccinated, you don't need a mask. You can walk freely. You can do what you got to do. But now you got to wear a mask still. And even they were saying vaccinated people may still, now they can transmit the Delta variant. Because, they start bringing up the Delta variant now. They were saying, oh, we might get past COVID, but now there's a variant. So my thing is, now I'm trying to connect everything because you're saying like the global thing, right? And during this time with COVID-19, all these protests is like the biggest money transfer that we've seen in like ages. Like the amount of money, all the people that have been at home, a lot of companies, the biggest money transfer to the top wealthiest people in this country. Like this has been the largest we've seen in like, so when we say money, like you're saying money and power is different, it's synonymous. I think it's synonymous too, because it just depends on how much money, right? It's the same thing. Money is power. Like you got to have money or resources or wealth to make moves in this country. So while we're having the COVID-19 pandemic, you got the protest, you got an election, everybody's fighting each other because of the political, like you said, a lot of this stuff is political. I agree with you on that part. Like a lot of stuff is politicized, which is why people can't trust certain things. But I think also the politics helps to hide common sense. You know what I mean? So people find out, oh, Trump said this, I'm not gonna do this. Biden said this. Me, when I'm like, I'm not voting for either one because I don't believe, to me, both parties work together anyway. Because now you got Trump scaring people on one side, then Biden is the quote unquote savior, and then y'all go ahead and take the vaccine. And now y'all go ahead and let them transfer all the money. And meanwhile, Trump is getting over a lot of things that Trump was doing. He's getting over on Biden and Obama policies that nobody wants to talk about. So just
I had questions too.
Ed Boy wanted, sorry to cut you off, man, but Ed Boy wanted to jump in. I wanted to jump in too, but Ed Boy.
Yeah. I had a few questions too, but go ahead.
Yeah, Ed Boy, jump in there. I'll jump in afterward because I haven't said anything.
He can't. Evan, we can't hear you, and
He's
your camera's
muted.
off, bro.
Yeah, you're muted. And let me text him.
Edwin, your camera's off, and you're muted.
Oh, they're in the same.
I might skip my question.
Yeah, they're in the same place.
Oh, all right.
Okay. I'm like,
I'm gonna sneak my question in because I before you even says so the origins of the pandemic, right?
Yes.
Like here's this kind of thing where it's just like there's no such thing as 100%, right? When anybody tells you, yeah, 100%, I guarantee you that, right? Like they're really just trying to sell you something, right?
Yeah,
so that's political speak right there. So like,
absolutes. Yeah,
there's no absolutes. So to me, when someone tells you that, it's because they have to tell you that, right? Because it's just like there's no such thing as that. And then there's the other thing. Even if let's say there is a possibility it could have been leaked through the lab. You know what? I'm actually willing to even like believe that or humor that, but it doesn't matter at this point. It's out, right? So if it's out, we got to fix that shit. But whatever, Edwin, go ahead. That I just wanted to kind of bring that up about like the origins. I don't think it matters where the origin is. Like at this point, we just have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Can you hear me, by the way?
We can hear you. We can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Now we can hear you.
I'm super sorry I'm late. I apologize, but I was just listening. I just raised my hand not to cut off, but just say, welcome to the base. Appreciate the conversation, and I'll just cut in. I missed the first part of the conversation. I can get the gist, but don't feel free to stop because of me. You can just continue, and I'll just cut in unless you have I guess I'm the guest now, so you can ask me any questions. I know everything. I'm right. So just.
I want is the floor open? Can I hop in here? Those are some good points. Those are some really good points. You know, tying in the capitalism aspect and the politicizing of the vaccine, as well as the mandates, as well as COVID all together. Like, all of that is relevant. All of that is relevant. I think that, if anything, that just feeds into the quote unquote paranoia that a lot of people have toward the vaccine, toward any type of quote unquote solution or remedy or whatever. So it's just like, my thing is, I feel like, is he still like raising his hand?
No, I'm sorry, my bad.
Yeah, you keep raising your hand. It's hilarious. Anyway, so no, my thing is, I just want to just pose this question. I just want to pose this question to the guys. Ed, boy, you're an asshole. He keeps doing it on purpose. The question I want to pose to the guys before I start mentioning my points is, so I'm assuming you guys are not. I don't want to use the term anti-vaxxers. Like, I feel like there's a connotation with that. You guys are anti-mandate, though. You guys are not for any type of mandate whatsoever.
Yeah, anti-COVID-19 vaccination. You could say that, because I know people say anti-vaccine. I mean, obviously, some of us have taken vaccinations before, but obviously, because so
the Johnson & Johnson, the Moderna, the Pfizer, you guys are completely against that.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Right, can I ask a question real quick?
Go ahead.
Sure.
So up until this point, what was the conversation more centered around? Just your general views about COVID-19, or
it was the mandate. It was the mandate.
Vaccines, or the mandate specifically.
It was the mandate. It was the politicizing of the mandate.
Okay.
There was some Fauci hate from my cousin Rob.
Okay.
and a little sprinkled in with a little capitalism and power and elitism as well. But mostly the mandate and Fauci was the backstory.
Okay. So all right, fair enough.
So I just wanted to pose a question real quick to our two guests, because everyone here, we can say, from legally speaking, we're all vaccinated, all right, from various types of, I took the Pfizer. I'm not afraid to say it. Took both doses of it.
The Pfizer.
So we were all vaccinated. So my question is to you guys, since you guys are anti-COVID-19, COVID-19 vaccine.
What next?
Like, what would you pose as the next logical step in terms of
work out, bro? He said if you work out, you'll be good.
I'm gonna just say because like when you said work out, eat healthy, fitness, but like, see, I think the thing too with this COVID-19 thing, right? I know you guys all took it. I don't want to. Well, I'm not gonna do it, because I don't want to assume anybody's general health anyway. But a lot of times, right? I don't know if you guys
and unhealthy.
You say you're not healthy?
I said I'm fat and unhealthy.
Oh, you say you're fat and unhealthy. Oh.
He's obese. Obese.
I took the vaccine early, bruv, because I said I was because I'm obese. I took the vaccine early.
DK, your disease is gluttony.
But listen, see, and for me personally, like people that thought they were obese or fat and that took it, I wasn't upset or the fact that you took it because if you're a high risk factor, me personally speaking, I wasn't upset like, hey, listen, I gotta take the vaccine because I don't know, because a lot of things they're not telling about this COVID-19, right? A lot of people have been getting it hospitalized. Most people, right? They have other, immunocompromised situations, right?
Comorbidities,
right? So, overweight, they got other respiratory issues that they have. So when you contract the COVID-19 infection, it might affect you harsher than somebody else that is in a more healthier situation or more fit.
Like pre-existing conditions. That's what you're talking about.
Right. Yeah. Because a lot of times we're talking, this person died from COVID or they went to hospital. They don't really tell, and obviously with a good reason, they're not telling all their medical history. We don't know all the people's medical history. So even with certain famous people that have died, I'm not going to say their names though, just out of sensitivity, but a lot of famous people that they were kind of portraying in the media, like, oh, this person's cousin died or father died mother died. Like they didn't tell their medical history, right? So, and then when you just look at the percentage, right, of people that have died from COVID-19, right, and because they're saying it's a pandemic, I'm like, what's the percentage, right? What's the percentage of people? What's the percentage and what's the recovery rate? You know, that's something they don't really portray in the media. And just if you guys don't know, it's very high. Like it's very, 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 very high. So that's just been my thing with the vaccination. Like, and you know, and like I said, I already mentioned earlier, just the quickness of the vaccine. And then now this is the first time they use mRNA vaccines. This is the first time they've tested on humans like mRNA vaccines, you know. And I was reading that I guess they use mRNA vaccines because it helps to speed up production, you know, of the vaccines in a quicker time. So when I hear production is speeding up, you know, I guess they're saying it's pandemic, but that means, you know, more vaccines, more money to make, easier to ship out to a lot of people, you know. So I think Pfizer and Moderna, they're the main ones, you know, leading the mRNA vaccine, you know, trend. But yeah, that was my thing. I think. Oh, I want to say something. Yeah, the mandate. Back to the mandate. I know Biden said that Congress members, there was no mandate for Congress members, but there's a mandate in New York. There's a mandate in California. It's a mandate for the people, but not for Congress members. So I don't know how y'all feel about that being you guys are pro-vaccination. Do you guys feel any type of way of that, or is that inconsequential?
Congressman, that goes across state lines. I think it's a good thing that they can't mandate it across every state like that. But that's like even besides the point. It's like it's like that's I'm trying to think of like.
Can I answer, Jack?
Yeah. Go ahead.
I think that's like, I think from either side, that's minutia. That's beside the point. You know, how many Congress members are there compared to the greater population? I understand rules for me, but not for thee. But functionally, that's what, you know, when you think about the greater issue, that's almost like, you know, looking at the trees and missing the forest. It seems, you know, very inconsequential. So we could argue. I think that almost goes into a different argument about, you know, just how things are rolled out in general, and just how, let's say, the political class is treated and compared to other people. But I don't see how that's relevant to the greater conversation. I can see how someone could latch on to that. Will say, look, you know, these people aren't doing it. These 500 or so people aren't mandated to do it, but look at everyone else. And in some of those cases, some of them are mandated, maybe not by the federal government, but by their respective states or whatever. So I don't know. I just think that's besides the point. But I would agree that would be unfair if Congress, and I'm not sure, you know, what, you know, I haven't looked into it, but it would make sense that, you know, federal employees, including Congress people, you would assume that they're federal employees just like everyone else. They should be mandated to take the vaccine. But so I don't disagree with the point, but I think that's one of those points that seems relevant, but I think it takes away from the greater discussion.
I wanted to hop into
like we could go back and forth, and I think we would all agree, like, hey, wow, that's fucked up that, hey, this class of people are, you know, can't take it, but then we'll get bogged down talking about that, and then just like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I'm not saying it's not a valid point, but I'm just saying it's kind of like minutia.
My thing wasn't about the unfairness. I just wanted to ask you that if you thought it was odd, because I don't really, I know, like, obviously they're in political, then it's going to be unfair. We know that's life. Then my thing is, if you guys found it odd. So I think you said, like, you find it inconsequential. So I was like, if you found that odd that they wouldn't mandate, like, why, you know, not about the unfairness, just like.
I don't find it odd.
Okay.
I don't find it odd, and it's specifically because you're dealing with, you know, you're dealing with the federal government, especially when you're dealing with different people who represent different states. It is politicized, so it's not odd. It's unfair if that is the case, but I wouldn't say it's odd. I think it makes perfect sense, but it's not fair if that is the case.
I mean, I had a point about is it BC? Is it
Martin?
I always get the names mixed up. Yeah, like
Bro, names up, damn.
No, I'm not.
He's like, what is your name? BZ? No, my name is Steven. Oh, wow.
I wish I could mute you because he's just gonna be an asshole the whole show.
You can mute me, actually.
He's not going to compete Grandpa Ugo.
No, I can't.
No, you can mute me. Watch, I'll mute you.
So
I told you.
You gave him the virtual COVID.
Exactly.
Bro, I told you.
Virtual COVID. Can you guys hear me? Am I still muted because it's jerk off?
No, you're not.
Okay. Anyway, the point you had made about the vaccine being rushed. You made that point more than once. There's a good documentary that I think all of us on the show, we've discussed a few times on our show. It's on Netflix, Surviving Pandemic or Preparing for Pandemic or something along the lines of that. It's on Netflix and it came out, I want to say 2 years ago. Like it didn't come out like yesterday or whatnot, like propaganda pushed or anything like that. It covers basically how the World Health Organization and what it did was it followed pandemics in other first world as well as third world countries. So it followed the Ebola outbreak in Congo. It followed a version of COVID that was in India, before here. It even touched on the swine flu from years past and whatnot. So, and in terms of how the World Health Organization, how other like global health officials, how they attack that vaccine distribution, how they attack pandemics, how they research, how they really lay the groundwork for something. And it was ironic, there's no irony in anything because, when capitalism and money is involved, there are no coincidences. It did mention that something was on the horizon or might be on the horizon, considering that there are COVID cells that lie dormant in chickens and in bats and in ducks and in various other types of animals that they're always going to be there. So it's just really a matter of when they're going to, explode or so forth and so on. So it's just like, my thing is, I don't think that the vaccine was rushed. That's just my personal opinion. I don't think it was.
Hold up. I need to, because the vaccine this technology has been in development for like 50, 60 years. Like, that's the thing that kind of gets me. It's like, I guess, relatively new, close to like, compared to like other random technologies, not even the internet, but like this technology, like it was discovered like 50, 60 years ago. And it's just been worked on since then.
What technology specifically are you talking about?
I think what he's talking about is the discovery of mRNA, period. mRNA was discovered in the 60s. That's what he's referring to.
Okay.
First proteins produced in, first proteins isolated mRNA that was produced in the lab was, I think, the late 60s.
mRNA was first synthesized like in the mid 80s.
Mid 80s, yeah, that's true. And I think the first time there was a clinical trial for infectious disease on humans was in the mid 2010s. I believe is mRNA vaccine designed for rabies. And then there was another clinical trial in, I think, 2015 for, was it the flu, influenza? And and then, ever since then, they've been, because, influenza is just, it's another, the common cold, just other coronaviruses. So, So I think that's what he was referring to. I was just trying to clarify.
Thank you, sir.
No, because I gotta see, because I know like the flu the flu vaccine that we usually take or whatever that people usually take. I haven't seen that in years, but like the flu vaccine, right? That's a type of coronavirus as well. That's a type of
and that's actually, and every year we have to come up with a new vaccine because of mutations, kind of similar to why we have these random variants. And actually, the flu vaccine, the efficacy changes year over year. It can be anywhere from like 35% to like 75%, which is like significantly less than like the COVID vaccine. That's why, like, I think COVID is like a good test of like what we can do when we need our second and third class citizens to get the fuck back to work, like ASAP and shit like that. You know what I mean? Like it's a coronavirus. We've been dealing with variations of coronavirus forever. Like, we've been working on, well, not we, because I haven't been doing this personally, right? But this technology, it's been around for a few decades. the intention was to eventually use this type of technology to create like effective techniques, right, for vaccination, right? With like, there was one random paper, or probably a summary of a paper, where they were talking about, like I mentioned it earlier, where they were hoping this technology could be that like one you use. So when I mention technology, I talk about more like processes that we use to like create things that like we want, right? So like,
Right.
you know, being able to use like the process and mRNA in order to be able to develop like a vaccine that's effective against multiple types of viruses. But like it's one of those things where it's just like we should expect variants for the rest of our lives, and not for nothing. Like, if you know, the flu is a variation of the coronavirus, we should expect this to follow a very similar pattern in regards to like, you know, we're gonna need to take this shit every year, and what's gonna end up happening, right, is like at least until the coronavirus came around, I wasn't really fucking with vaccines that weren't like required for me, honestly, just because I'm lazy and because, you know, history and shit like that. But I didn't really bother with it until like now, right? And why most of us probably didn't have to bother it. Why not? Because enough random people took that shit so that we had herd immunity. And it's like it's gonna be like that, right? We're all gonna be aware of that shit until hopefully we get to herd immunity. And then people will forget about that shit. And then we'll be able to go back to our random lives where it's like most people don't have to worry about that shit. You know what I mean? But go ahead, Edwin.
It's funny about the flu in general. Ever since the pandemic during the 2020 flu season, only 700 confirmed deaths from the flu, which is like a 90-something% reduction in flu deaths.
You said 700. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Say that again.
700 deaths from the influenza virus in the 2020-2021 flu season versus the previous year, which was 22,000, which is
flu,
pretty
right?
interesting.
From the flu, you said?
Yes.
From the flu?
Okay. And
Yes.
how many? Oh, from this past year, right? And then
Yes.
how many
Only
was that
700.
compared to COVID-19 deaths?
I think in the U.S., COVID-19 deaths was something like 500,000, something like that.
In this past year.
Um,
So it's only
but-
700 flu.
But it's
Yeah, I
interesting.
do want to point out, comparing deaths though, that more people have died from COVID than World War II. Like I feel like people don't acknowledge that or don't think about that. Like, this is one of those things where like we don't realize it now because we're living through it, but this is gonna change the course of like human history for like ever, and we're not gonna be able to like notice that shit until like 10 years from now, where we're looking at this, you know, in our future
No, I think
podcast,
we
where
notice it
we're
now.
both making billions of dollars, you know, and we'll
I think we notice it now.
No, but not we won't understand the effects of it. I guess is gonna be like the
I mean,
better way to put it until
Yeah,
like
that's
5,
true.
10 years from now when we're able to like reflect
That's
on
true.
it.
that could be
um,
said. That could be said for anything, though. But
Yeah,
I get.
but it's just like, because right, World War II was like, you know, life changing, right, world changing, right, and that's less deaths than now.
I was there.
That's the
I was there.
but no, that's the only thing I want to point out, because it's just like, yo, this is a lot of fucking deaths, and this is like, you know, this is gonna affect us in ways we can't anticipate now, and we're only gonna be able to like reflect on it in the future.
Well,
And this is why I kind of find it odd though, because you brought up this point where you say you don't really care about the origin, you just want to deal with what it is now. I'm just saying, wait. So someone engineered the deaths of mad people, and y'all don't care. Y'all just like just to take the shots from the people that made the shots.
It's
Well,
it's like you'll never be able to prove
okay.
it. You'll never be
Okay.
able to prove it. That's the
hold
thing.
on.
There's there's no way anyone will ever be able to prove it. So it's like it's pointless to try to figure that out, because we'll never be able to.
Well, I mean, okay,
But
slow down.
there's always going to be reasonable
Everybody,
doubt.
slow down. We're getting into crazy territory because
We're getting to Umar territory here.
No,
We're getting-
it's not even that. Hold, slow down. Because
We're
everyone's
getting
gonna start talking at each other because you guys condense like 4 or 5 points in one sentence. We have to
Yeah.
address everything one by one, right?
Word.
So I think, right, like how we deal with the vaccine and how we feel about the mandates are completely, in my opinion, are completely different conversations than the origin of it. I think because once you start conflating those two, it's hard to have an objective conversation, because we're talking we're talking about things largely about things that we don't know, and a lot of our own personal feelings about the situation are going to be injected to it. So I think we should, at least if we talk about that, we should go point by point rather than saying, oh yeah, the vaccine was here and the COVID came from here and we don't know. I think we should just go, just so we don't sound crazy.
No, I hear you. So you go. There's one thing you said. You said that you took the Pfizer vaccine, correct? Right?
Yeah, took both doses.
You know, we're Nigerian, right?
Yeah.
So did you know in the 90s that Pfizer went? Yeah,
Yes,
you
I
know,
did.
so you know about that. All right.
I know exactly
that they have a history of experimenting on us, giving us drugs and all that. But you felt okay. So you know what? This is the 90s. Like this is like 20, 30 years from now. From this point. Oh, I thought I said 20, 30. I'm like around 30, 30 something. But you felt, you know what? Even with all that, I'm gonna go take that vaccine. And this is where, and I don't say Dr. Umar, but I'm trying to get into the mindset, the mentality of the. All right, so I don't. All right, so I want to stay on top because Ed did bring up trying to key points to where it is, but it's really bringing up the mentality of the Black mind and specifically like how we look at our oppressors and how we tend to lean on them even though they're hurting us. So like the white savior complex, the Stockholm syndrome, right? You knew that these people experiments on your people. There's lawsuits talking about I seen the pictures. Kids are like freaking paralyzed, this, that, and third. But you felt, because of the pandemic, which you guys say you don't care about the origins. That's on you. You said, you know what, it is what it is now. Let me take the drugs from these people that have experimented on me and hope everything turns out okay.
Well, can I refute that real quick? Yeah. Let me about that here because for Pfizer in particular, and yes, I did know that story, and I researched that story as well because actually our uncle sent me the article or the video where they were talking about it. Yeah. The thing with again, I can only speak for myself. I never generalize. I know in my career path with journalism, with sports media, with podcasting, with content creation, I know. Just anything television or entertainment related, it was going to be mandated. There was no getting around it. Like if you want to work for an ESPN or Sports Illustrated or a big time corporation or whatnot to progress your career in that sense, and you don't want to do it independently, you want to join a machine before you break out and do it on your own, that it was going to be required to you were going to have to be vaccinated. There was no getting around it. And right on cue, when I was applying for jobs, 99.9% of the jobs that I was applying for a couple months ago before I finally settled on the company that I'm with now, it said it in black and white. If you want to work here, you have to show proof that you are either vaccinated or you are on the road to be vaccinated. And if you want an exemption for religious purposes or health exemptions, if you want an exemption, we cannot guarantee your employment. So toss the coin if you want. So I just took that and just having foresight, I just knew that there was no getting around it. I was going to have to be vaccinated. That's just what it is. So that was my experience in particular with Pfizer and with the vaccine. To answer
can I interject? I think when you say it's they